Welcome to lit.happensse, Unpacking Senior English. I'm Adriel.
And I'm Belle.
We're experienced English teachers dedicating to supporting both new and experienced educators in a world in which we are often time poor, to empower our students to excel in their English studies.
If you're an English teacher like us, navigating this curriculum, then this podcast is designed with you in mind. And our mission really is to break down the complexities by unpacking English nationally.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lit Happens. Today is episode 34, and it is all on teachers' mental health. Very poignant in this part of the term. We've got a lot going on for teachers. Hello, Adriel. Welcome back for another week.
Hey, Bill. How you going?
I'm good. I think we've picked a really good topic for the week. Everyone's probably drowning in trials marking, drowning in prepping their year 12s, drowning in getting their prelim year 11s ready. So I think this is a very well-chosen episode and topic for today, definitely.
No, definitely. So I'm excited to sort of unpack this. This is something that isn't a one-off. It's something that we have to continually address as teachers. So definitely looking forward to going through it.
Fabulous. Before we get started, let's get into our lit quit for the day. Also very, very relevant. Having your personal phone connected to work emails. Is this lit or does it make you want to quit? Adriel, lit or quit?
I learned within my first 6 months of teaching that was a definite quit.
Yep.
I think, 100% quit. I totally say to many teachers, for me personally, I mean, you can do what you want, but for me personally, after the first 6 months of teaching back in 2014, I think it was, yes, a while back now, I was like, nah. I am definitely not doing this because your emails were lighting up your phone regularly. There's an expectation, an unrealistic expectation that you create where, you're just like, oh, I'll just check out my emails or I'll just check this out or I'll check that out. And by and behold, you're not living in reality. You're living in what do I need to do for work or X, Y, and Z. And thus your work-life balance goes completely out of whack. Unless you're completely disciplined and that when you leave work, you're leaving work there, and you might set aside a little bit of time, which we know is inevitable. You do have to work at home. These are just little things that you do need to consider. But I mean, I'm definitely not someone that is that disciplined to be able to control that urge to look at my emails. So just not having it connected at all was a very, very important choice I made early on in my teaching career, and I mean, it's paid a little bit of dividends in terms of how I feel and how I approach that work-life balance. Yeah. How about yourself, Bill?
Yeah, I think what really stood out was when you said the way that it can impact all your balance and because it's not just work, right? Like we have work, but we also have lives and we have families and we have our own selves that we need to look after. And I think when you've got that app and all that bombarding your phone, how much are you going to be able to balance? I'm definitely a quit on this as well. I never put it on my phone ever because I know, being very type A, that I would just be so overthrown by it nonstop. I'd be looking at it, I'd be doing things, and I just knew with my personalities, this is not going to be healthy for me at all. You might still have your sneaky little check of the email, but I find at least if it's on a browser, it's less likely to interrupt my day and interrupt my flow and make me kind of obsess over, I've got to do X, Y, Z and make this list and do that. Because as you said, there's always things we have to do. There's always some time that has to be spent outside of the school day. But I think the bombardment of emails and notifications, it's just an extra stressor that we don't need,
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. I'm definitely a quit on that. I'm a big no on that. I know people have their different preferences, but
I think one of the big things that we do always say and put in, I mean, you all have a free choice and we all make choices and decisions based on our individual lifestyles. And I think this is one of those ones where it's like, I mean, if I was to encourage you, definitely avoid having it. This is what I tell a lot of our younger teachers, or people that do come into the profession. But then again, I mean, if you feel the need to know things, just make sure you have discipline then when it comes to having that work-life balance. So yeah, it's one of those things that you learn as you do go along in your teaching journeys.
Definitely. I think that sound and sage advice. So shall we get into our episode then, Adriel, for today?
Yeah, let's get
what we're
started.
going to do, let's get started. What we're going to do for all our listeners, we're going to take you through, some things that come across with teachers' mental health, but also strategies and things that in particular Adriel today is going to talk about, little tips, tricks, strategies that he employs to keep himself sane amongst the busy times of the year. So question 1, Adriel, why is mental health mindfulness critical for teachers in our profession?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, mental health is a massive thing in society, let alone teaching. I think that's something that I do want to just address straight away. It's something that we all need, or all have a greater awareness of as the world becomes more and more interconnected. And in the teaching framework, it's something that can often be overlooked because we are like the mentors. We do look after people. We're in the business of people, and a lot of the times we like to keep a lot of our things sort of welling up inside of ourselves as teachers because we're the bigger person in the room. We're the ones that are engaging with helping kids. Why do we need help in a way? Sometimes there's some of those questions that can arise, but as we start to look more and more into the sphere of mental health, I think it's very important for teachers in particular, not only English teachers. I mean, we're looking at through the scope of the English lens today, but teachers in general, it's a very tough profession. It's a very hard profession. Anything to do with the business of people, I think, takes a lot of toll on the mind because we are working day in, day out. We're making decisions on the spot. And look, there are different stresses in different industries. And again, mental health is like one of those issues that is prominent across all scopes in society now. But for teachers in particular, I think it's one of those high pressure professions. Remember, we are shaping and molding individuals of the future. And it's something that we take very seriously. It's one of the reasons why people go into teaching, is we want to inspire that next generation. So with that in mind, we are now seeing an increase in New South Wales, the lens that we'll probably be speaking into today, where educators are definitely facing greater workloads now. The big one being administrative sort of demands, which are now becoming more and more prominent. The emotional investment, which I've touched on to an extent here. I know in particular in our senior years, we spend a lot of time with the kids in terms of the emotional investment, all building them up through the whole 2 years of the HSC journey. So we're seeing a lot of consequences and effects of teachers that either look after their mental health or teachers that get consumed by all of these different factors, which definitely can influence the way that we look at our job, our profession, our career, our family life. So, yeah, look, poor mental health will affect things like your job satisfaction. We're seeing this, statistically in our profession. Lots of people are now sort of just going in, doing what they can, and leaving, which is, it's understandable, but at the same time, it's a bit disappointing in a sense because, a lot of people go into teaching thinking you're making a change in the world, which you are. You are making an impact in the lives of young people, but we often can't see that because of a lot of the demands that are now becoming prominent in our teaching career and profession. So that's important. The personal well-being, sustainability, like these are questions that we often ask. So it is definitely one of those big things. And I mean, the key word that we look at in the teaching industry is burnout. I mean, teachers are becoming more and more burnt out within the first 6 months of their teaching career. And can I just put this in there? it's not something that's new, burnout. It's been around for a long time. It's just what we're seeing now in society, especially in the realm and the profession of teaching, is the fact that our teachers are no longer pushing through, I guess, those initial 3 to 6 months, maybe a year or so in teaching, because there is this sort of voice out there where it's like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But I guess today we'll try and unpack a few things. And I should put this out there as well. We are not mental health professionals or practitioners in the field of counseling or psychologists or anything along those lines. So again, there are fantastic resources out there for teachers if you are in this space and you're needing professional help. We'll probably link a few things that we've sort of been through in our show notes as well. Please reach out to these organizations. Again, we're just talking about some strategies that we have used through our teaching careers, and that's going to be very, very important. So, yeah, there's a few things to consider there, and I guess we'll unpack these a little bit more, but things like heavy workloads, administrative burdens, the chronic stress of just juggling responsibility between work and home life. Look, these are some of the things that we do need to consider. And then on the flip side, as I've just mentioned, what are some of those strategies that we have employed to good avail or good effect? Some have worked, some we still work on. So I guess we're just going to be talking about these things. But yeah, look, mental health, mindfulness, it's so important when it comes to this space.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's really helpful is to know, for other teachers listening, to know it does happen. We all, experience it in some shape, form, time. Some of us experience it at the start of our careers. Some of us, like myself included, experience it later on in our careers. And it is, and that's why I think, Adriel, we wanted to do an episode on teachers' mental health from our own experience. Like you said, we are absolutely not, professionals qualified. Do not take my advice, but just something relatable so that you guys also understand out there. We're in it too. We felt it too. It's a very collective thing, and more importantly, looking at the strategies, because there are things that can be done that will definitely help alleviate that pressure to help bring that spark back to you for teaching, I think. All right.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's get into our second question then. Adriel, what barriers might make it hard, like specifically in teaching, what teaching barriers might make it hard for us to maintain that positive mindset and maintain that good mental health that we all need to be able to get through our day?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest workloads, people will probably allude to workload and administration, which we've been speaking about. But I think the number one thing for me in particular is teachers are superheroes. You guys are fantastic. You're like, the impact that you have in shaping this next generation is immense. And we carry that mantle on our shoulders. And with that mantle comes this emotional exhaustion. I think that's probably going to be one of those big barriers, because we want to change the world, which you do, but sometimes we may not see it, or sometimes we may not feel like, year in, year out, am I actually making that change? Am I making that difference? And I think it starts off with that emotional exhaustion that is, part of the teaching profession, but also when we look at things like, perfectionism. I mean, I like to be in control. I think I've mentioned this. We like to control every little element. I know one of our old colleagues, I used to always say this a lot of the time to her when she used to sit next to, me in the staff room. It's like, there are only certain things that we can do. Unfortunately, there are things that we just have to sort of say, okay, like, I can't address that, but what is the best way that we move around something, or what is the best strategy that we can sort of maneuver around things? Because perfectionism will definitely lead you to a one-way street to burnout, Bill, very, very quickly. So I think that emotional exhaustion is quite important, especially when it comes to supporting these younger, generations coming through. I think also, again, we sort of alluded to this, the administrative workload has increased not tenfold, probably about 100-fold. I mean, in the last 10 years or
Yeah.
so, it is quite
Yeah,
a bit of work,
dramatically.
and it's wild what is expected of teachers now. I know for English teachers in particular, people always will be saying things like, "Oh, well, you've always had to mark essays." Yes, English teachers, essay marking and extended response writing marking, and the way our assessments are marked, that can definitely help make your mental health uh, travel on that downhill
Yes.
inclination quite quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when we're looking at like our current sort of time. So, assessments such as essays, as creative writing tasks. I mean, I felt this recently marking trials. It's excessive. It's excessive.
And
The
there's still
time
a 2-3 week turnaround. There's no
yeah,
I think the
yeah,
thing is there's no leeway to compensate for that. So English teachers in particular are just constantly churning through to meet the
yeah,
deadline that time-wise is very different compared to maybe other KLAs, and it's
yeah,
exhausting. It is. You're
yeah.
right. You're absolutely
It,
right. Mm.
that's a reality. And like you just mentioned this, the time pressures that are involved, amongst not just marking, but also your other administrative tasks. We have to do professional development to
Yeah.
maintain our accreditation and all of these sorts of things. Like
Data
it
collection.
does, yeah, exactly right. It does affect the way we sort of approach our teaching, and it's understandable why there is this massive sort of burnout going on, and why there are so many barriers in maintaining our mental health.
Mhm.
But yeah, look, those are a few of the things. I think also like the fact that there is a limited access to mental health resources, um, or that time to prioritize, I guess, that self care
Yeah.
within our busy schedule. And this is
Yeah.
one of those taboos that we can often sort of speak about. I mean, I'm a big advocate for men's mental health. I love it. And I think it's a sphere which, for me personally, I've invested in quite a bit in the last few years. But similarly, in teaching, like men's mental health, we often see this as like a taboo subject, speaking about mental health, because yes, we have like the surface level like organizations. We have like the mental health month of May, um, but really we need to be addressing mental health weekly. Daily, every single sort of day. And it's something that we don't speak about, I don't think, often enough in our own teaching careers, in our
Yeah.
personal lives. I think that's probably what I'm saying. Like, we have the whole show, and that's fantastic. But as teachers, sometimes we feel, well, like I don't need to talk about this. I just have to suck it up, or I just have to drink a cup of concrete and just continue. And yeah, look, to some extent, again, this is why I'm not a mental health advice sort of person, but to some extent, I would say yes, we do need to put in structures that will help to alleviate some of those issues. But
Mhm.
just that access to mental health resources and speaking about mental health regularly, I think we need to sort of address that quite a bit, in terms of what is effective, what does good mental health look like. Will it always be roses and sunshine? No, not necessarily. But how are we addressing it daily? And then I think that's something that I guess could be benefited more so if there was more access to resources, external, internal, whatever it may be. But yeah, look, we'll speak a little bit about mindfulness and strategies in the next few minutes as well.
Yeah, that's really good, Adriel, because I know, you were talking about just that constant stream of day to day. Like,
Mm,
you've got your students, so you've got all the different ways your brain has to think and respond, and all the questions you get in the classroom. That's
yeah,
obviously different for each class. Then you've got to come back to the staff room and, do what you got to do your admin, prepare your assignment, give feedback, do some marking, check your emails, and it's this constant. I think because it's this constant stream, and it's very
mm,
easy to not listen to yourself in that stream, because there's no,
mm,
sometimes I know for me, there was hardly any room in the day to have
yeah,
my own thought. Or sometimes you go
mm,
the day and you're like, I didn't even eat, didn't even
yeah,
drink. And
yeah,
so that, once you do that ongoing, it gets to a point where sometimes you do hit a breaking point because you went so long ignoring it, not because even that you were deciding to ignore it, but just the nature of all those things. And I know I come from the perspective of I have a almost 4-year-old now, and that transition for me back to work and balancing it all after maternity leave was really difficult, actually, because even if you are part-time, it's that kind of job you're not part-time. Like if you're full-time, you're still working overtime. And if you're part-time, it's kind of like you're full-time. So it's this constant stream that when we don't listen to ourselves, I can see, why so many of us have, moments and where we go, we need a break, or we need to change something, or we need to do something different. And the more, I think what's nice about this conversation is, in this podcast today, is it gives an opportunity to voice these things, and in voicing these things, we might be able to let it out or have some clarity and have a break. But some really good things you've talked about. So let's move on now to the nicer part of this episode, the actual mindfulness. So how can mindfulness and reflection, support our well-being? So what are some of these, things that overall might be helpful? And then I know that you and I are going to talk about some things that work for us. So how can it be used to support our mental well-being?
I think one of the big things here, I just want to, I know we're moving on to this next question. I just want to add one last thing in terms of what we'll sort of talk about, barriers. I think in this day and age, one of the biggest concerns for teachers now, more so than ever, is the fact that, what happens in the classroom can be instantly transmitted to the outside world as well. So we are always I used to say this, we're living in this world of litigation now. It's have I said all the right things? What if I said this to, offend this or that or whatever? And I think that is something that definitely is emotionally exhausting for teachers. And I just want to sort of say this to our teachers listening, it is exhausting. That is one of the things that we see, and then the way society has shifted now, teachers, for sort of many different reasons. I think that's one of the big things and barriers that teachers do face is now, every single thing that we say and do is monitored, and then it's I understand, I don't know the complete answer to it yet, but we understand, it's hard. So I just wanted to sort of address there. But look, let's move into this mindfulness and reflection part. And I think first and foremost, it is so important to make sure you are taking care of yourself. We take in terms of mindfulness, you are in the right frame of mind, not only for yourself, but also it makes you a better teacher in the classroom. I think that's so, so important. It allows you to stay present in what you are doing, focusing on, the then and there rather than what if or what could happen or what should happen. Making sure that you are there in the moment, with your staff, with your students, with yourself. A lot of the times we can look at words like reflection and self-reflection, and we might say, "Oh, why do I have to reflect this?" I mean, I've been sort of a little bit guilty of this sometimes. You get to end of a course and it says, now evaluate or reflect on what you learned, and you're just like, "Oh, what do you mean?" But as I've matured a little bit more now, I understand the importance of reflection, especially when it comes to your mental health. Having that self-awareness allows you to identify, what triggers you, what are some of the things that are affecting the way you're feeling in a day-to-day sort of basis. And this will help you to identify some of those coping strategies. But look, in order to identify a lot of these things, it's making sure that we are understanding what helps to build our emotional resilience, what helps to build our a way out, like the roads or the routes out of some of these tunnels that we dig ourselves into because we're not reflecting enough on ourselves, on our mental health, and our well-being. So I think one of the big sort of things in terms of mindfulness is having that work-life balance. I think that's so, so important. So like I said at the beginning of today's episode, I said it is important to understand that our profession, just the innate nature of it, you will be working at home because it is too hard to get everything done in the school day, because I look at it like this. It's like the front of house stuff when you're doing the teaching during the day,
Yeah.
where
Yep.
you're in class most of the day. And then even if you've got a period off or two, like sometimes many of us may be in roles where, you're doing well-being, or someone will be like, I need help with this, or I need help with that, or whatever it may be. And by and behold, the time that you had addressed for or left for admin now becomes something that you need to do at home. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, it is part of the job, but it's like, okay, see, this is the thing that we've reflected on. We understand that it is part of the job, but how do we go about approaching it? And what are some of the strategies that we look at in undertaking it? So it may be you come home, you set aside X amount of time, maybe an hour in an evening, where it's like, all right, today I'm just going to reflect on all my processes. I'm going to get myself sorted, but you keep it to that hour, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't know, but don't go over 2 hours. Because then you're just affecting your work life balance quite a
Yeah,
bit. So
I think you don't want to be sacrificing sleep to work. I think
yeah,
because I know of people where that happens, and it's very
yeah,
easy to work into the night. But I think if you're sacrificing, what you need to replenish for the next day, you
yeah,
definitely need to be capping yourself. You still need to be eating. You still need to, like, and this is the thing. Like, this is what we say to our students, right? Like, this is what
mm,
we say.
mm,
Like, I said this to a group of Year 12 students right before their trials. Yes, you're going to be studying, but you still need to eat. You still need to have a
yeah,
break. You still need to have fresh air. You still need to sleep. And
yeah,
I think as adults, we need to just, as the teachers, we need to be embodying this as much as we can. That might not be consistent and all the time, but just when we can, making sure we're doing that as the easiest way to kind of start looking after ourselves a bit better, I think.
yeah, yeah. I think it's so important, and like one of the good things that you can do is, I mean, a lot of us are visual learners, and having like a journal, and a lot of us have like teaching journals. I have your personal journal as well. Like, what are your goals for the day in terms of what are things that I can achieve? And keep it simple.
Mm.
What are the things that I can control? It sounds, again, I used to be a skeptic about all of these sorts of things, but I mean, ever since I started sort of looking at the things that I can control, like spending, like my mornings, for example. I mean, for me personally, if I was to speak about some of the things, could be for people, we have, teachers across many streams, but for me personally, my faith is a big part of my, mindfulness techniques for myself. And, I ground myself in my faith and understand perspective quite a bit. And I think that's going to be like an important thing for you. You reflect on like, why, man, instead of like, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? Oh, I have this X, Y, and Z things to do. For me, it's like, I wake up and, reflect on my faith and have those moments in time, uh, thinking about, okay, what am I grateful for today? The gratefulness for the opportunity to go out and do X, Y, and Z, grateful for family, grateful for things. And it's like simple things
Yeah.
like this, grateful for, life in general. And again, it sounds like, I've heard all of this stuff before and whatnot. And I'm telling you right now, like, until you start practicing it, you don't really understand the importance of doing these things. So yeah, it's one of those things that we neglect quite a bit as teachers because
Yeah.
we're so busy. We're so busy. We just have to tick the tasks off. We just have to, go to one goal to the next goal to the next goal to the next goal. So really simplify your goals. Think about like your mindfulness things. Like, what are the things that I'm going to look after? If you've got a young family, what's your goals with them in the afternoon? Am I going to take my young one to a park? I mean, for me, I don't have that in my life at the moment, but I know for myself personally, I love going to the gym, for example. So when I go to the gym, I have a lovely podcast on, and lifting weights definitely allows me that escape for um, or that opportunity to establish, whether it be in the morning. So sometimes I'll wake up at ridiculous times. So I'll spend my little bit of time in the morning. 4 a.m. is generally my wake up call. I'll go
Mm.
spend my time in reflection of my faith, and then move into like the gym space, get myself ready for the day, preps me on, and then whatever the challenges of the day I are present or are going to be coming my way, at least I've set myself up for the day. And these are big things. Could be going for a walk. I mean, I take the puppy dog for a walk in the afternoon, and it's just nice.
Yeah,
It's just nice. Like,
it
you
is.
have to have that break. You have to have that break.
You
So
do.
mindfulness, self-reflection is so, so important. But being intentional in doing it, I think that's
Yeah.
probably the number one word there. You have to be intentional. So really, really, having those journals. I mean, we could probably come up with a little bit of a to-do list, I think, self-reflection journal there, as
Mhm.
part of English Lit Happens. I don't know. Like, it might be something that questions you ask yourselves. What are things that I can achieve? Just so you feel good, during the day. But
And
yeah,
so,
I think those are a few things that we can definitely consider.
yeah. So why don't we then get into well, we've talked about some of our suggestions, haven't we? Well, I really like the gratitude thing, Adriel, too, because I
Mm,
think that's nice no matter if
mm,
you're like religious or spiritual or more individual, like anyone can practice gratitude and it's so
mm,
powerful. It's part of that growth mindset. And most
mm,
schools have some aspect of growth mindset within their welfare system for their students. I think as teachers, we need to start looking at the growth mindset and the mental well-being of ourselves as
mm,
teachers. If we don't look after each other and after ourselves, I know that if I see a teacher who looks like they're a bit over the whelm or they're over the pump or they haven't slept, like I'll ask them and I'll say to them, how are you feeling? Did you get a good
mm,
rest? Have you eaten something? Can I make you a tea?
mm,
Like those things are so small, but they're huge,
mm,
right? We all have,
mm,
and we all have examples of when that's done for us. Even something as simple as, I know what my head teacher just said, just go and sit outside in the sun for a few minutes, you'll feel better.
mm,
And it's so true. And then, to this day, sometimes when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, I'll go outside, even 5-10 minutes, some fresh air, some sun, it makes a difference. And I think it's like we don't
yeah.
have to be experts in this, but if we lean on each other, we can all help each other out and give ourselves some ideas. I love your suggestions. I love how you set yourself up in the morning. I'm a bit different. I don't really do that right now. My little one doesn't make that as easy, but I do things then in the afternoon and certainly at nighttime before bed to help myself wind down and in a way
Mm,
prepare for the next day. So there's definitely ways to do
yeah.
that no matter what stage you are, what you like, what your preferences are. I think you've
Mm,
given some wonderful suggestions. All right.
mm,
Well, let's wrap up
mm,
this episode a little bit then and start talking about, and I just touched on this very broadly, but how can we build a supportive school environment for our own mental health as teachers?
yeah. Um, I'll quickly touch on just a few other things, like in terms of like the self-care techniques, for the
Mm-hmm.
stress and burnout sort of stuff. I just wanted to
Sure.
address just a few things. I know, um, when I first started teaching, and one of my teachers there, I used to go and sit with him sometimes, just because you know we
Debrief?
all have
Like
those
a debrief?
moments. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
he always, like, it stuck with me 11 years on a, and he'd just sit there and just listen, whilst I just sort of spoke. And at the end of it, he just said this, and it was quite a nice little metaphor here. He says, as teachers, you got to access that well of enthusiasm every single day. And I thought,
That's
like,
nice.
it's definitely something that you need to keep drawing from every single day. You got to draw from that well, as hard as it may be. You got to find that energy. And whatnot to really draw from it, and that's sort of has helped me quite a bit. Um, there are definitely days where I'm just like, I don't want to go into work, but then you have that time of reflection and you move on. So, again, just quickly touching on some of those self care techniques. I know, depending on family life and how you're doing things with your family is quite important. But self care, so sleep. Make sure you prioritize your sleep. Make sure you are doing, like, your social sort of self-care as well. So meeting up with your
Yeah.
friends, and
Mm-hmm.
family, that's very, very important. Setting boundaries is super duper important. I mean, I know I'm just covering these things very, very quickly today, but it'd probably be important to actually maybe unpack some of these things in greater depth
Yeah.
as we do move forward. But I think also, like, taking care, like, I know I'm getting old. I still play sports in a weekend, on a weekday, sorry. just to break up the monotony of my week. I know when we were teaching together, we were at our old school on a Wednesday arvo, we used to go play golf with a few teachers from the area just after work. Used to be our sports day. And you'd go down to the local golf course, walk 9 holes of golf. Again, find something that, I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and play golf, because you probably do have other mental health issues when you are hitting the ball on the golf course, but find something to break your week up so you're not constantly thinking about work. And yes, there are going to be tasks that you may not complete, but this is where it's important to consider and prioritize what is important, what can get done. And I think those are the important things that will definitely help you in terms of self-care. Take care of your physical health. That's super important. I don't know if we speak enough about this. So like I said, going for a walk, going to the gym, doing a bit of exercise, getting fresh air, and eating well. I know
which is very hard to do.
Yeah, I know. It's important. So, that might mean on a Sunday arvo or a weekend or something where you might prep your meals, or you might subscribe to one of those, organizations that send food. So you're not obviously wasting money on fast food. I know, for me, when I first started teaching, I had a crazy start to my teaching career, full-time career, where the first 6 months I had my second shoulder reconstruction, which meant I had exhausted most of my leave. I had a few sort of things there. And then, I was driving an hour to and from work, which was, my life for about 8-9 years, working where I was working. And in an afternoon after a stressful day, you could stop into the big Golden Arches and, get a cheeky cheeseburger or 2 or whatever it may be. And by and behold,
comfort food.
Yeah, that's right. After a year or so, I know I had packed on a substantial amount of weight, which for me personally was just like, oh, wow. And then it takes a while to sort of, get back into that health routine. And a lot of these different things are very, very important for you guys to consider as teachers, and find what works, find what works. And I know for me, this is why I spend that time at the gym now. And it's one of those priorities now for myself it's that mindfulness. I know it's physical health, but it's also so beneficial for my mental health, because not only does it establish a space, but it sets routine, it sets things that I can control. And these are important, those practices that we can help become practice and priorities in our lives, the important things. So important things. But you moved into this school supportive environment sort of stage for our mental health. I'm very fortunate where I'm working currently. My current head teacher, she is fantastic in fostering a school environment. And I know when we worked together, we had our work mum, who was our English head teacher at the time. She was fantastic. And we would also, as we developed in our career there as well, help out all of our younger staff members or newer teachers fit in and build a collaborative space. I think that's probably so important, because the life of a teacher can become one where we're thinking about, competing, or, my kids are doing better than your kids, or X, Y, and Z. But that doesn't matter at the end of the day. No, it's not healthy whatsoever. Being collaborative, helping out your fellow staff members. As much as some staff members, you may get along with them or you may not get along with them, I'm going to say this, and this may ruffle a few feathers. You are in that same workspace for 6, 7, 8 hours in a day. You want to make that space a nice place to be. So sometimes it's important to suck up our pride, and really, take that and be the bigger person in that space. So I think just having that mindset is, we are going to have differences of opinions and differences in the way we go about things. But remember, you're there together for 6, 7 hours in a day, or you're spending time together, and you don't want it to be this negative space. It's very important, fostering that supportive environment. So building your peer networks.
Definitely.
Asking, you mentioned this, asking your colleagues how they're going, checking in with people. and I'm not saying checking with people like as this, you know, I have to do this sort of thing, but how are you going?
No, very natural.
Would you like coffee? I mean, I know I do this. Our head teacher used to do this back in the day, but I'm doing this currently. I put together a lolly jar for our faculty, and each week I fill that lolly jar up. And it's just nice. Teachers come in after a hard class or whatever it may be, and you see them just go for the lolly jar, a bit of sugar, just to keep them going. And it's something that I learned from our head teacher. So these are different things that we do have to consider. And I think one of the big things is just understanding that you're not alone. We're all in this. I'm not quoting High School Musical. I'm not going to sing it, but we're all in this. We're all in this together, sort of vibe. There, you are there. You are making a difference in the generations that are coming forward, and you are valuable. And then these are the things that we do consider. I know, like for us personally, we've been on separate journeys, and we definitely check in with each other quite a bit. Especially in the last few years when things were getting different and time for change was coming up, and that, I guess that probably does mean something as well. Sometimes you build that supportive school environment, you become so comfortable in your space that you fail to realize that there are other opportunities and doors out there, and we become so comfortable that we don't want to address challenge. And I do want to say this: your character and your growth does not grow in comfortability. It will actually grow when you are challenged. So as much as we're saying take care of yourself, and yes, we understand that there are burdens, and yes, we understand that it is very difficult. I just want to encourage you guys out there today, and I say this to the students as well, as they go through their HSC journey, that if you were to remain comfortable forever, you're not going to grow. This growth mindset comes out of, this development when you are put into like that furnace a little bit, and you sort of work through strategies to help you get out of it. So hopefully some of the things that we've sort of spoken about today actually address this.
Yeah. And, sometimes being too comfortable is also going to impact your mental health, depending on personality and your experience and your growth. Sometimes you do just need something new, and it can be scary when you're in a very safe, comfortable environment. I know my English faculty is proper beautiful and like they're wonderful human beings, and the cheeky little coffee shop across the road that has set up from us is doing damage in our pockets. But I will say that's one little simple thing that we do. Usually we try and in the morning before the day starts, we might head over and grab a coffee together. During the day, sometimes you have those days that you can feel everyone's a bit sluggish, and if you have a period off, we'll have a pick me up. We'll say, let's grab a coffee, or let's get some iced teas. Like just those little things to remind you again that like you're a human and that you're adults, and like how it's so easy, I think, over a coffee or a tea to have a chat, and sometimes that's all it takes. I loved your suggestion of, how you guys would meet up and do golf. I know that we would do after school coffee and after school dinners. We try and do it in the school holidays too when we can. Just those things to foster, I think, our relationship, and then you feel comfortable. And I know for me, if I don't know you very well, it takes a lot for me to open up and say, you know what, I'm having a shitty day. I want to kill this person. I want to throw this in the bin. But if you can, take time and foster that relationship, and then you'll lean on someone, but they'll lean on you. And often I think it's very hard in schools, cross faculty areas, whole school. Some schools do that better than others, having whole school well-being for staff initiatives. But I think if that's something that's a bit difficult at your school, you could always do that within your faculty, or sometimes we bond with people that aren't in our faculty, but we've got like a connection. Sometimes when you start together with certain staff and you go to those early career teacher meetings, like I know some of the teachers at our school now that are early career teachers, there are a few of them that will get together and meet up. I know we used to do that. So there's so many, I think, pockets and opportunities. We just have to allow ourselves to try and find something that's going to work for us. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's probably like the big things. And look, there is so much more that we can be sort of speaking about today, because mental health is such a big space, and I think we'll probably address this a little bit and remind teachers along the way, little bites and whatnot. But do take care of yourselves. Do understand that. Here's probably another little soundbite that I've had to tell myself recently, is, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes we think, leaving the teaching profession or doing this X, Y, and Z. Sometimes we have seasons, and in the season, one of the questions you can sort of ask yourself is, yes, it feels like the world is crumbling down outside, but what can I do to build myself? What is it that I'm building in this space? What is it about my character or my teaching that I can work on, that I can control, so that you can actually, feel a sense of achievement? And again, I'm not denying that it is a crazy, wild profession. But the world is crazy. The world is crazy at the moment. And, you guys are valuable. You guys are doing fantastic work in shaping the next generation. If we didn't have teachers, I cannot imagine how our world would be looking right now. So not only is it important to understand that you are valuable and you are a superhero, that sounds so cliched, but it's true. You do also need to take care of yourself as well. And hopefully today we've addressed a few of those little mindfulness things and strategies. Well, I mean, I've got so many different things. I know for myself personally, if it wasn't for some of these strategies and support networks, I think that's probably a big one as well. I would probably be in a corner crying somewhere. I know I'm pretty open about this as well now. Big crybaby over here. You'd find me in a corner crying because, it can be very overwhelming. And I'm not ashamed to sort of admit that, because life is hard, teaching is hard, but the people that come out on the other side, you'll be so much better for it in terms of your character, in terms of your teaching, in terms of how you feel about yourself, if you can be intentional in looking after yourself, and reaching out. Like I said, we'll probably address some of these, organizations that we might have, that we've used personally, or have had suggested to us, just so our teachers have a space there to reach out with. But look, fantastic speaking about this. I feel empowered, and I feel definitely a sense of relief, I guess. Speaking about mental health, it's something that we can continually do.
Getting it off our chest is the first half. And if I could say one last thing, don't be scared or stressed to take a sick day or a mental health day. We have to put ourselves first. Our students will cope if we're not there for a few days. I mean, they don't cry when they have their days off. So, do you know what I mean? They will be fine. Your faculty will be fine. We need to look after ourselves, and sometimes you just need a day and some separation. And that, for me, in the past has made a big difference. So don't be afraid to do that. There's always always going to be there. People always be there. You build those supportive foundations. You will support each other through those things as well. Thank you so much, Adriel, for being really open and honest in this episode. I think it's really important. Sometimes we want to just pretend like we've got it all together, and look, we might have it all together, and that still doesn't mean that we don't have our struggles, and we might not have it together, and that's totally normal as well. But I think the first step is being really honest about it, as you've been today. So we're very thankful for that. Thank you so much, Adriel, for all of your wisdom and suggestions. And guys, please continue to support us so we can have more important conversations like this. Like, subscribe, share, engage with us, comment, interact. We would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Have a lovely day, guys.